Hey guys, Magnus Robert here, bringing you another video. And today, we are doing a video ranking the costumes of 2021. That's right. So, I said I'll do costumes first before I get onto NPCs or buildings, so that's what we're doing. Of course, there were 10 costumes that were added this year. A whole 10. So, I have a nice top 10 list, really, but technically I'm ranking them from worst to best. I mean, if I call it top 10, I mean, it's not really truthful because there's only 10. So I'm just going to be ranking it from worst to best. We'll do the worst first, then the second worst, you get the picture, and then finally the best. How confident do I feel about this one? I will say my number 10 and number 9 picks are like debatable. I could like switch them around pretty easily. I'm pretty confident about my top 2, but then like with my top 2 I'm like iffy of whether or not to turn them around because I like both of them. And the rest, I think, are all somewhere in the middle anyway. So I think it's a fairly decent list. I'm happy enough with it. So let's get into it with the worst. And of course, I'm putting the worst as Test Subject Bart. I'm going to go with this one as the worst one of the year. There's a few reasons why. Let's start off with the basics, which is the fact that it's super premium. Now, we don't like super premium here in this channel. We think the super premium generally is quite bad. There are some exceptions. I sometimes like some super premiums and I can look past the fact of super premium, but this one is just kind of crappy anyway. I'm not really too keen on it. Now this really should be a costume for Mooch Bart because it's Bart in the future. The episode showcases Bart as an adult test subject. I think it's like a little clip show, a little cutaway, but it shows Bart as an adult, or at least as a young adult at the very least, you know, trying like a Buzz Cola out and then getting turned into a big freak, basically. And so it really should be a costume for Mooch Bart, if anything, and not for regular Bart. I'm glad at the very least it is a costume. It's just the costume for a wrong character. And this is what I mean when I say that they're really inconsistent when it comes to like what becomes a costume, what becomes a character. This is just like a perfect example of that. And it really does bug me. In terms of how relevant it was to the update, I mean, it was okay, I guess. It kind of like ties in a little bit because it is like, you know, Mr. Burns turning the old people into dinosaurs. But it is a little loose. I mean, I think the next one on the list has a bigger, you know, there's a bigger the next one on the list doesn't correlate whatsoever, but at least this one correlates a little bit, so I guess that's a fair thing. The animations I don't think are too bad. They're not amazing. I mean, you got the one where he's like trying stuff which is called rapid fire test products, and then scare the locals out of money is just him basically mugging people, well, kind of scaring people and then giving them money. Yeah, so the animations I don't think are too bad. I quite like them. I don't hate them or anything. His questline was a bit boring, wasn't too interesting. It was just fairly simple, really, him just trying stuff out and earning money, I guess. I mean, yeah, not really much more to say about it. Worst costume, in my opinion, although it's close to the next worst. I could honestly have either one. The only reason why I put this as the worst above the next one on the list is because the fact it's a costume doesn't make sense. But now, well, the fact it's a costume for Bart doesn't make sense. It should be a costume for Mooch Bart. That just annoyed me more so than the next one on the list. But anyway, the next one on the list is Robin Hood Homer. Robin Hood Homer. So, the only reason, there's a couple reasons why I put this above Test Subject Bart, but like I said at the start, honestly, I could switch them around on like a bad day. I could probably switch them around. Don't take it too literal. I think they're about on par as how bad they are. But I do prefer the quest line for Robin Hood Homer at the very least. And I'm kind of glad it's also a costume for Homer. Part of me kind of likes the fact it's a costume for Homer because it's a step in the right direction. But however, it is still inconsistent because this character shows up in the Marge Ziff episode, and Marge Ziff is a separate character, and this is a costume. So it's still inconsistent, don't get me wrong, but I kind of like the fact that it is a costume instead of a separate character. I really couldn't be asked with this sort of a doppelganger of Homer like this walking around, but not another one. But the reason why it's kind of worse than Test Subject Bar, or like a reason sort of for it being as bad as Test Subject Bar, is because I generally don't think it correlated very well to the event whatsoever. And of course, it was added in the Tavern Trouble event. It just felt really random and odd and kind of thrown in there for no reason. So yeah, take that how you will. They're both super premium, obviously. So in that aspect, they're as bad as each other. But I think as well, this one was added to the yearbook, the mystery box. I don't normally like to... The mystery box at Black Friday, I don't normally like to take that into account, just because I should be analysing the character when it was initially added. But it was added to the mystery box in the same year, so part of me wants to take that into account as well, for it not being as bad. But there you go, Robin Hood and Homer, still a pretty bad character. I haven't even talked about the animations, and the accidentally rob the rich animation is fine, and the practice archery one is fine. They're both fine animations. I probably would prefer the animations to Test Subject Bar, I think, just a little bit. But I still think that Robin Hood Homer is worse for me, only by a tiny little bit, but there you have it. Anyway, next up on the list is Santa Snake. So, this one might be a bit controversial, possibly, because I am putting it below, some costumes that I think some people might consider worse. The only reason why I'm putting this one here is I generally prefer the animations for the other characters, and that really is it. This costume did feel a little clumsily added in the event as well. Now, I generally do think that this costume would have made more sense being in the questline, considering Snake is sort of a major part of at least that one act where he's added. So, for me, I think it would have benefited better if the Sideshow Bob costume was delayed until Act 4, and this costume was added in, I think, Act 2. I think that's the right act. Or it might be the Act 3. I forget exactly which act it was. But basically, this costume should have been added to the act where it was when it was released. Basically, it should have been added to the actual prize track. I just feel like it would have served better for it being free, and it just feels weird it being randomly chucked into the store. They haven't done that in ages, so I found that kind of odd. Yeah, the animations I don't think are too great too. I mean, they're fine, I guess. But they're sort of similar. They both include the little bucket thing. You have the one where he's basically robbing people. What's it called? I just need to actually look for the actual. Oh god, they don't even have the jobs on the tap.wiki. But there's the one where he's basically robbing people, and then there's the other where he's got like the tentacles coming out of the little money pot. I'll put like a little picture up there for you. There you have it. So this is the one with him robbing people, and then there's the tentacle one there for you. Yeah, and I think the animations they're fine, but they're nothing great. And I think the animations of the other ones were a bit better. I think the questline was a bit short, felt a bit underwhelming as well. So yeah, overall, don't think it's a terrible costume. I think all of the ones past the two super premiums aren't bad costumes really. I actually don't hate any of them. So this one I think is just a bit mediocre really. And I think if it were added in the prize track and it was free and it felt a bit sort of more thoughtfully added, I probably would put it a lot higher. But for now, I'm putting it here. So that's Santa Snake. Geriatric Park Burns is next on the list. So I've said in the past that I can appreciate this costume to a certain degree just because this outfit, this kind of version of Burns, him and his Geriatric Park getup, sort of led the event in a way. And I think I can appreciate that to a certain point. But honestly, the costume is a bit boring and a bit forgettable. I don't hate this costume really. It's free. It makes sense to add it. It'd be weird if they didn't add it, and I'd probably be I'd be more mad if it weren't added. But at the same time, there's nothing really to go crazy about this costume, so I just there's not really much more to say. The two animations are fine. They're nothing amazing. You've got searching for new park subjects and reviewing Geriatric Park merch. I think both of them are just okay. They're nothing crazy. Questline wise, it's nothing too amazing. I think this costume's just fine, you know. I can appreciate it to a certain degree. The fact that it led the event, that's all cool, but yeah, not really much more to say. So that's the Geriatric Park Burns at number 7. Next on the list is the one you voted for as the worst, But after looking at it again, I've kind of changed my mind, and that, of course, is Bionaut Marge. So like I said, at first, my kind of first initial opinions of this costume was that it was kind of lazy, kind of chucked in there, kind of bad, and I placed it pretty much like, I think initially I had it just above Robin Hood Homer, so it would have been number 8. But I've changed my mind on it. After re-looking at the quest line, I don't think it's as bad as some of the others. Still not great, but it's not too terrible. And the animations, I actually really enjoy. You've got the experiencing side effects animation, which I just think is hilarious. Like Marge's hand going big, then her whole body going small, then her hair going like really, really massive. I'll show the little picture. Or hopefully I've showed the little picture. I don't know. I just think it's like a really funny animation. So I appreciate that one a lot. I think that one was very cool. And then you have the second animation, which is escaping the Bionaut ship, which again, I think is fairly pretty cool as well. I'll show a image right there for you. Looks-wise, though, it's nothing too interesting. I get that, but I think the animations are more important than the initial look of it. I know that another thing is the pose that she does in the splash screen is like the same to the sexy Santa Marge pose. I know that Spring King found that out and showed me that, and that's kind of true, but it's the splash screen. I can't really judge it too hard for that. But there is one bad thing about this costume, and that's its placement in the event. It did feel very loosely thrown in, although they did tie it in with the quest line. I don't know. Its whole sort of tie-in is very loose and very off. So I agree with that to an extent, but I think the animations kind of outweigh that a point. I don't know. I just really enjoy them. So might be your worst costume of the year. I still don't think it's amazing, but honestly, for me at least, I don't think this costume is too bad. It's okay. So, that's Bionaut Marge. Elf Mo. So at first, when this kind of costume, like when we saw it in the leaks and stuff, and we saw it kind of upcoming, I thought that I wouldn't like care for this costume very much, and that it'd be very bland, because we've had the whole elf get-up before, like Elf Lisa and Elf Bart, and it was nothing, those costumes weren't anything too special, and I don't think this costume is anything that blows me away or anything, but no, I don't think this costume's too bad. I think the animations are both fine. I quite like them. Serve eggnog, simple, but works. And go for a sleigh ride, which is a very cool animation. The quest line was fine. It was okay. I didn't hate it too much. I didn't think it was anything too amazing, but I think it was probably better than all the costumes that's come before it. Probably. Yeah, I think that's fair. It's just maybe it's because my expectations for this costume were so low. That's probably a possible reason, but I quite enjoyed this costume. I think it was okay, so I think this is a fair placement for it on the list. Unlicensed Surgeon Mo. We're going with a Mo theme today. Yeah, I think this is the best of the two Mo costumes. I do like the Elf Mo, but I just think this one's better. The animations practice surgery is fair. It's very cool, and the pass out flies is okay, I guess. With the, it's going with the whole advertising his surgery. The practice surgery one, though, I think is quite funny, with him with the little doll, basically practicing his surgery, and I'm glad they didn't use an NPC, because it kind of annoys me when they do that. Yeah, very cool costume. Really love the quest line, was pretty good for it as well, and the event it was added in was a bit loose, I will say that. They tried to tie it in with the whole New Year, New You. I do feel like it was a bit loose, but overall, just a pretty decent costume. Not really much more to say. Yeah, it's Unlicensed Surgeon Mo. Going on the list here. Santa Saito Bob is number 3. Definitely the best of the Christmas costumes that we got, for sure. And just a really good costume overall. I think it makes sense to have this costume, obviously. They kind of sort of loosely based it on the Bobby It's Cold Outside episode, sort of. And obviously this costume was tied very well into the event with the whole questline and sort of story of the whodunit event, so that is a plus. And the actual questline for this character I really enjoyed. The animations I think are great. Not Plan a Murder is decent, and Steal Christmas Presents is very cool as well. And then you have just all the non-animated ones as well, which I quite like too. The Costume looks really cool. I really like the look of it. I think it kind of transforms Sideshow Bob in a way, so he sort of looks completely different, so that's kind of cool. I always like it when the costumes kind of transform a character. I know it's kind of weird to talk about aesthetics when we're talking about like a quality costume, but I think it's relevant. Those costumes tend to be the best. Like the Shadow Knight costume, I just think is really, really cool for that reason, pretty much. Yeah, animation-wise, it's very awesome. Questline-wise, it's pretty good. Looks-wise, it's cool, and it tied really well into the event. So overall, just a really solid costume, and added the fact it was free. So that's awesome too. Yeah, great costume overall. I think this one is like, I could possibly put it number 2, but I could be probably persuaded to put it number 2. I probably wouldn't, but there again, I've like number 1 and number 2. I kind of like, I'm like debating whether or not they're in they have the right placement. So maybe not. It's a great costume though. Don't get me wrong. Whatever you think of number 1 and number 2, I think this costume is still great. So that's Santa Sideshow Bob. Cyborg Bar. Oh, I'm going with this as number 2. And the number 1 is my number 1, and you guys probably know what number 1 is now. But the reason why I'm putting Cyborg Bar as number 2 and not number 1 is I just think number 1's animations are slightly better. And that generally is the only reason why, because they're similar in a lot of ways. But Cyborg Bar is just such a cool-ass costume. I'm so glad we got it. Looks-wise, it's awesome looking. It looks really, really cool. Questline wise, it's pretty good. The inclusion in the event makes sense. Although I kind of do wish they added David, the robot from that Treehouse of Horror episode, just so they could have like a questline with those two going back and forth. But no, looks wise, it's just awesome. Such a cool ass costume. Animations are great. You obviously have the experience system malfunctions, which is pretty cool, and keep the streets safe. I wish there was a bit more kind of action in that one, but it's okay, I guess. It's just kind of him looking around though, and that's my only issue, is that one animation just is a little bit of a letdown for me. But it's still a very, very cool costume overall. Really enjoy it. Really cool. Looks awesome. So great. Mwah, perfect. But there must be a number 1. Can we have that drum roll, please? Mecca Chalmers. That's right. This just has to be my number 1 because I adore this costume. Now, I feel like some people might bring up the fact, well, this costume's premium, whereas the Cyborg Bar isn't. So Cyborg Bar is just better because it's not premium. I think that's kind of a reductive argument, though. I think if we do that, then we're basically saying no premium costume can ever be number 1, unless it's like leagues above a non-premium costume. I don't know. I think that's unfair. It's premium, but it's regular price. It's nothing too overpriced or anything. It's just $150, the standard combo price. So I think that's fair. Although the building it comes with isn't great, which I will admit. So maybe I should lower it, but I feel like it'd be unfair to sort of criticize it for its building. I could understand if some people would want to swap Cyborg Bar and Mecca Chalmers around. Believe me, I kind of debated with it. I kept switching around. I do think they are like almost as good as each other, but Mecca Chalmers, like I said before, is above Cyborg Bar because I think the animations in this costume are better. The one animation in the Cyborg Bar kind of let me down, the whole observing the streets one, whatever it's called. This one, though, I love the animations. The missile, what's it called? I forget the exact names of them. You have the show off the missiles one, which I think it's fairly decent on its own. It's a pretty good animation. But then the animation, the Pog animation, the best animation of the year, in my opinion, by far, is of course clean the smudges off the suit. Because he actually gets out of the suit and then like hops up. So you can see the suit kind of empty. I don't know, there's something about that. I just really love it. I just think it's just such an awesome animation. So that's why Mecca Chalmers, for me at least, is number 1. Great animations. Haven't even talked about the questline. The questline was okay, I think. I don't remember it too well. I'll be honest, I didn't really skim through it, this one, because I felt so confident about it. But I don't remember it being bad, at least. It was pretty good. Yeah, inclusion in the event, I guess you could argue, is a little loose because obviously they have kind of threw in the whole Rigelian thing at the end there. So yeah, you could say that the inclusion in the event was a bit loose, but I don't know. Overall, I don't think for me anyway that's such a big deal. Such an awesome costume, love it a lot. It's my number one. The only costume for Chalmers as well, which is kind of interesting. Unless, does he have a Stonecutter one? I don't think he has a Stonecutter costume. At least I don't remember him having a Stonecutter costume. Anyway, such a great costume for sure. Really cool one for Chalmers. And I kind of like the fact that I'm putting this as number one, you know? Because normally number one would be like a costume for like one of the main Simpsons family. But kind of putting this here feels, I feel different. I feel pretty unique putting Chalmers here. So, Mecca Chalmers, number one for me. But I can understand if Saito Bob is your number one. But that's my number one. Anyway, let's close off the video. So, not too bad of a year for costumes, I don't think. I definitely think in terms of great costumes, I'm going to go with Sideshow Bob, the Sideshow Bob Santa, Mecca Chalmers, and Saito Bob. Those three are just great costumes overall. I think Bionaut Marge, Unlicensed Surgeon Mo, and Elf Mo are fine costume, and Geriatric Park Burns. And, to be honest, Santa Snake, they're all fine. I think those ones, they're all in the fine category. And the only bad costumes really were Robin Hood Homer and Test Subject Bart. I've changed my opinions on Bionaut Marge. I think in the past I've said it was bad, but I'll be honest, I don't think I caught both animations. I don't know. I feel like, unless like I've changed, I don't know, did I like just not see the animations? Because part of me feels like I didn't, and I just judged it on looks. But then, I normally do. Maybe I missed them. I don't know. Maybe I was just lazy and forgot to. But no, I really like the Bionaut animations. I had a look at them, obviously in preparation for this video. And that's what made me kind of switch her around. But if you guys think she's worse, please let me know. I'd like to see why, or hear why. But for me, I don't know. But yeah, let's close the video off here. So that's my opinions. Let me know yours. Maybe give me your top 3, your top 5, your top 10, whatever you want. And I guess I shall see you in the next video where we'll do, well, maybe it might not be the next video, but the next one of these types of videos, we're going to be doing NPCs ranked from worst to best. That one will be fun. So, thanks for watching. Hope you have enjoyed. Let me know your thoughts, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.